Good day everyone, I am Maya Vilbillanes and I will be presenting you the future world tourism and hospitality issue. So, safety and security in tourism and hospitality is the first issue of universal concern. The safety and security also in tourism and hospitality will be the greatest challenge for tourism policy and planning for many years. So, safety and security, particularly from crime and terrorism, have been very important issues in the tourism and hospitality industry for many decades. So, as you can see here in the graph, the the attack of terrorism is increasing as the year pass by. And at present, there is also an increase of terrorism that specifically targets tourist destinations, and that will be the disadvantages for tourism industry. And crimes against tourists like robbery, murder, and kidnapping are also important concerns for destination planners. And also in several places, there is an there's an statistics regarding a victim status, as resident visitor is not regularly reported or collected by local police agencies. But however, when crimes against tourists are featured in international media reports, the result is often harmful to the overall image of the destination, in spite of the low level of risk and number of actual offenses. So, Dr. Peter Tarlow, an expert on tourism and security issues, proposed these points. There are seven. First is destinations and attractions must compete on their readiness to keep visitors safe and secure. So it just means that every destinations and attractions employees must know the first thing to do to for safety and security purposes, especially if there will be terrorist attack will happen. Second is destinations that provide sound security coupled with customer service will prosper. Third, the lack of a comprehensive approach will create a false sense of security. So it just means that um, news should have credible and legitimate information to be spread by society. Next is all members of the local tourism and hospitality system should be included when developing a comprehensive tourism and hospitality strategy. So all of the employees of each local tourism and hospitality must be aware of the comprehensive tourism and hospitality strategy. Next is media coverage of a local incident can spread the negative public relations effects to the entire continent. So like what I said earlier, the media coverage must have legitimate and credible um, news to be spread. Next is the safety development needs of the components of the visitor experience, including transportation and infrastructure, accommodations, highway rest areas, and food sources should be assessed. Last, establish a place for visitors to turn to if a tourist attack were to occur, and openly communicate the location and purpose of the center in advance in case of any threats. So each of the tourism destinations and attractions should have locations for the tourists in case there will be a terrorist attack will happen, so that the tourists will be evacuated safely. So next is the impact of the world's economy on tourism and hospitality. Um, the world economy has a major impact on the future of international travel. With a flourishing world economy, more people will travel. If there is a greater distribution of a country's wealth, more people will have the financial means to travel. Next is the impact of the world's economy on tourism and hospitality. This is, I mean, managing sustainable tourism in a responsible manner. The topic that I've said earlier is the second tourism issue, and this one is the third tourism issue. Um, Sustainable tourism is of utmost importance at present and in the futures. It measures to advocate tourism agencies, host communities, and travelers about sustainable tourism must be continued as the world population increases. So respect for our natural and built has been a major concern for destination planning as well as regional and national policymaking in the last decade. So next is tourism policy and strategic planning. This is the fourth major world tourism and hospitality issues. So, the sustainable benefits of tourism and hospitality for local communities will continue to grow in importance. So, there will be greater efforts toward partnership of private and public sectors to alleviate poverty, develop policies to combat the negative impacts on tourism and hospitality, and support the economic, cultural, and environmental contribution of tourism and hospitality to the world. So developing new tourism and hospitality projects, maintaining present destinations, and improving travel related facilities and services require comprehensive policies and detailed plans that combine local needs, market competitiveness, and tourism and hospitality sustainable so that it will result for the tourist destinations and attractions growth. Next is using e-commerce tools in tourism and hospitality. This is the fifth world tourism and hospitality issue. As internet access continues to increase in many countries, online travel revenues will also increase. It is evident that the issue of e-commerce tools for tourism and hospitality will continue to grow in the future. So even now in the present, the e-commerce is already growing, and what more in the what more will the e-commerce will grow in the future. Next is tourism and hospitality education and training. Globalization and innovation will be the outstanding feature of tourism and hospitality education and training in the future. So several innovations are taking place in some universities. Many initiatives and changes are already taking place in tourism and hospitality education and training. There will be new trends, including the collaboration between tourism agencies and educators of tourism colleges and universities to address the changing needs of the tourism and hospitality industry. So these conferences enable the promotion and sharing of the latest best thinking and best practices in tourism and hospitality education in order to produce effective and efficient tourism and hospitality managers in the future. Next is emerging tourism and hospitality markets. China and India are the two emerging tourism and hospitality markets in the near future. These two countries account for about one third of the world's population, and each country's economy is exploding, and a greater segment of the population is anxious to travel. So, both countries are emerging as important receiving and generating countries for tourism and hospitality. And in terms of arrivals and tourist receipts, Europe continues to account for one half of the world's tourism and hospitality market, and then Asia and the Pacific have been the fastest growing regional market, surpassing the Americas. and the Americas will still be strong insofar as international tourist receipts are concerned, largely due to the combined influence of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Next is the quality tourism and hospitality products and experiences. Tourists demand greater variety, flexibility, and quality in their tourism and hospitality products, and quality in tourism and hospitality experiences is usually high on tourist list. In the future, the number of variety of tourism and hospitality products will change, and adventure travel like jungle tours, safaris, trekking, exploration, to space travel is being experienced by adventure travelers. Next is partnerships and strategic alliances in tourism and hospitality. New partnerships are occurring, such as the partnership between the UNWTO and the meeting industry on November 20, 2006, in which the United Nations Tourism Satellite Account will measure the global economic contribution of the meeting industry. So, a recognized form of competition is the rewarding of frequent travelers with points which can be used with car rental companies, hotels, airlines, and other components of the tourism and hospitality industry. Tourism and hospitality partnerships are a form of cooperation to facilitate competitive and at the same time mutual interest. Through strategic alliances in tourism and hospitality, the tourism and hospitality industry can maximize its use of outsourcing, particularly in the areas of cost effectiveness, cost reduction, and brand loyalty. Next is the impact of health issues on tourism and hospitality. Most travelers avoid the areas that have high health risks. Diseases spread more rapidly due to travel, particularly through the international aviation. And fear of disease reduces travel demand, and other diseases that affect tourism and hospitalities are AIDS, SARS, and foot and mouth disease. Policymakers now need to react to crises in their own countries. They should formulate strategies to provide support to individual countries and recommend restricted travel to affected countries. Next is effects of natural disasters on tourism and hospitality. Natural disasters have devastating impacts on the tourism and hospitality industry. People avoid travel to affected areas, and once this occurs, there is limited opportunity to use tourism and hospitality to restart the economy or to obtain new revenues to reinvest in the tourism and hospitality industry and in well-being of the local residents. Other types of natural disasters also have lasting impacts. Mudslides disrupt business enterprises, generate huge cleanup costs, and destroy landscapes. Policy formulation needs to address the following: providing the immediate needs of the industry and guests, long term recovery and rebuilding, and lastly, prevention and impact reduction. And last, for the major tourism and hospitality issue is climate change and tourism and hospitality. Global warming is a growing concern for travelers. The recently published research by the World Wildlife Fund documents the ecological uh, footprint of human activities around the world, many of which are embodied in international travel and tourism. And results show that the world's ecosystem is being degraded by humans at an unsustainable rate that cause irreversible damage to the planet, as well as triggering population declines at about 31% inland animals since 1970, and freshwater creatures by 38%, and marine animals by 27%. Climate change Climate change can cause a ripple effect on in tourism and hospitality. It will affect which certain locations will tourists visit and at what times of the year. Tourism and hospitality managers need to look for information proactively and take the lead in creating responses to projected changes. Local tourism and hospitality managers must focus on environmental issues to enhance the tourism and hospitality industry.